Let's assess our performance on the Industrial Revolution quiz. If you got a correct answer, next to the number you're going to put a nice check, and if you got an incorrect or wrong answer, you're going to put an X. Let's take a look at question number 1. It says, which situation in Great Britain was a major reason why the Industrial Revolution began there? Let's look at option A. It says, an ample supply of human and natural resources. An ample supply of humans is what? It's a lot of people. Were there a lot of people there and natural resources? B, an increasing power of the laboring class. C, high quality of public education. Or D, eagerness of the nobility to become factory owners. Well, we can eliminate C right off the bat because that doesn't relate to why the Industrial Revolution started there. Increasing power of the laboring class. What's laboring class? This is like working people. By class, they don't mean like a class in school. They mean a group of individuals in an economic system. And so what we can do is we can eliminate B, eagerness of the nobility to become factory owners. Another word for nobility is the rich or affluent people. And nope, that's not why it happened. So all that we have left is option A. There's a lot of people and a lot of natural resources, which resulted in this transition to big factories creating lots of goods and services. Let's look at number 2. Which is an important reason the Industrial Revolution began in Great Britain? Was it A, Parliament ended the mercantile system? Possibly. B, the king granted special subsidies to inventors? No, that never happened. C, substantial sums of money were available for investment? That seems pretty interesting. I think that might be it. Let's take a look at D. A nationwide system of technical workers produced highly skilled workers. No, schools were not producing highly skilled workers. The answer in this case is C. Substantial sums of money were available for investment, and because they could put these upfront costs or funding into factories and things like that, they were able to produce and grow. Let's look at option number 3. An important social aspect of the early part of the Industrial Revolution in England was what? Urbanization of factory workers? Interesting, maybe that's it. B, elimination of the class system. No, there were still very rigid class structures, so it was not B. C, development of government-funded housing and medical programs. That never happened. Or D, acceptance of dissenting religious groups. Another word for dissenting is disagreeing. And was that relevant at all to the Industrial Revolution in England? It certainly was not. So the answer is A to number 3. Lots of factory workers and people moving to the city. Let's take a look at number 4. It says, actually, there's a quote, right? And what I know is that before we even read this quote, I'm going to look at the question, and it says, which revolution does this quotation describe? We've got 4 options. We've got French, Russian, commercial, and industrial. Now, I don't know about you, but Mr. Schulman and I are not like throwing trick questions at you. And so this quiz is called the Industrial Revolution quiz, right? So probably if the quiz is called Industrial Revolution and we've got 4 options, the answer is probably going to be the Industrial Revolution. But let's take a look. So I can see it says, with the new methods that used mass production, division of labor, the assembly line, and interchangeable parts, prices came down. A greater number and variety of goods, like items that you would buy in a store, right, became available to more people. The domestic system was disappearing and a new revolution was sweeping across Europe. Yes, clearly this is the Industrial Revolution. The answer to number 4 is D. Number 5. Before a nation can begin to industrialize, that nation must first develop what? Is it a democratic government? Is it a rigid class structure? Is it a strong religious foundation or an adequate food supply? We know that religion is not necessarily important at all. Rigid class structures is also not crucial. Democratic government is important, and that often happens in industrialized nations, but that is not the answer. The answer to number 5 is an adequate food supply. That means basically enough food, because in order to grow a company or business, you're going to need to have lots of people, and you're going to need to feed those people with enough food or an adequate food supply. Number 6, which group would most likely support the idea that the government which governs least governs best? We've got 4 options. We've got mercantilists, we've got scientific socialists. We never talked about that, so we can cross that one right off the bat. Number 3, laissez-faire capitalists, or D, welfare state capitalists. So this question is saying, which group is most likely to support the government that governs the least? If you're governing the least, you might be considered lazy if you're not doing a whole lot. Remember we talked about that in class? Or you're doing very little. And we know that welfare states definitely help out people. So welfare states are doing a lot of work. So that clearly is not it. The answer is number C, laissez-faire capitalists, because this deals with capitalism, and laissez-faire is this idea that the government should stay out of the way or do the least and let the market and business run its course. Let's look at number 7. It says, which is the most consistent with laissez-faire economic theory? All right, so this is basically, what is the definition of laissez-faire economics? Wage and hours set by law. Free trade among nations. Interesting. Government ownership of utilities. And D, government programs to aid economic growth. So I see that with A, C, and D, these all have to do with like the government setting rules, right? Set by law, government ownership, government programs. Whereas B says free trade among nations. This is the correct answer because we know that laissez-faire economics suggests that government should stay out and that people should be able to do whatever they want as it relates to economics. So no, nothing's set by law. There's no government ownership and no programs to aid economic growth. The answer is letter B. The theory of laissez-faire capitalism advocates what? So is it government control of the economy? Is it non-involvement of the government in the economy? Is it government regulation of big business or government sponsorship of labor unions? It seems like, again, A, C, and D all have this idea of government controlling the economy or money, right? I see the word control. I see the word regulation and sponsorship. But that's not what laissez-faire is. This idea of laissez-faire is that it sort of stays out of the way. The government does nothing. So the answer to number 8 is B, non-involvement of the government in the economy. It's staying out of the way. Let's look at number 9. It says, the Roman Catholic Church of the Middle Ages has been compared to a modern-day government because the church what? So basically what we're thinking about is how is the Roman Catholic Church the same as a modern-day government? How are they similar? Did they both employ artists who might have otherwise starved? No, that's clearly not the answer. Was it B, responsible for providing many services needed by the people? I know our government does that, and I'm pretty sure the Catholic Church did that, so let's put a little question and maybe come back to it. Is it number C or letter C? Insisted on the importance of religion in bringing order to society. Well, the Roman Catholic Church certainly did that, right? But does modern-day government do that? No, definitely not. So put that right out. And D, provided for regularly held elections to select members of the legislative bodies. Well, on the other hand, modern-day government definitely does that, right? But does the Roman Catholic Church of the Middle Ages do that? No, definitely not. So that means that there's only one option left, and that's option B, responsible for providing many services needed by the people. And let's wrap it up with this last question. What was a major result of the Crusades? Was it development of new economic interests in Europe? Was it a permanent dominance of Christianity in the Middle East? Was it a decentralization of the power of the Roman Catholic Church? Or was it a lessening of power and influence of the European middle class? So the answer is A, because the Crusades resulted in the development of new economic interests for Europe. So this lends itself to the idea of the Industrial Revolution. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, let me know. Good luck.